What I'm not intending doing with this video is starting an argument as to whether APS-C or full frame cameras are best. They're both good systems and both have their own merits. Back in my film days, all of my cameras were full frame. The negative size is 24 by 36 millimeters, which is full frame, and I understand the benefits of low light photography and depth of field. The only anomaly back in my film days was this little Canon camera, which used the APS film format. It was quite interesting. It tried to add some new technology to film photography, but it had a very small negative size. The image quality wasn't good. It wasn't very successful and didn't last long. In 2004, I moved to a digital SLR system and I bought an APS-C camera. And the reason for that was purely financial. At the time, I think the only Canon full frame camera was the 1DS. I think it was introduced in 2002. Very, very expensive. The only camera that was really in my budget was the 300D, but that looked like a plastic toy. I wanted something a bit better, so I went for a 10D. APS-C, nice camera, but very expensive at the time. And as I progressed, I bought more APS-C cameras, and that was really because of cost. The full frame cameras were still very expensive. In 2013, I got fed up lugging a heavy, bulky DSLR system around in a tropical country where I live now. So I bought EOS M, and I loved it. The original camera was a bit slow. That was a big problem. Canon fixed that with the EOS M6, which was a really nice camera. And then the next iteration was the EOS M6 Mark II, which I use at the moment, and that's a fantastic camera. Now, in the last few years, it's become quite obvious that Canon have discontinued the EOS M system, although there was never an official announcement. And that seems to have come in the past week. There has been an announcement that they're going to discontinue the EOS M line, which I'm very, very sad about, but I can't do anything about it. So I will be forced to move to EOS R. And nowadays, it's not that expensive to get a full frame camera. The EOS RP has been cheap for a long time. That's full frame. But when I do move to EOS R, I will probably stick to APS-C, and at the moment I'm looking at an EOS R7. I've got used to APS-C cameras, using them since 2004, and there are some really nice benefits with APS-C cameras that I'll go through in this video. The first advantage is the 1.6 times magnification, which is fantastic for nature and sports photography, and it's completely free. There's no reduction in image quality, and if you wanted to increase magnification by adding a 1.4 times teleconverter, it will cost you a stop of light. That's not the case with the APS-C crop factor. There's no penalty at all. If you do use a 1.4 times teleconverter, you get the added magnification of the teleconverter and the crop factor, which in this case is 2.24 times. So using a 70 to 200 zoom lens, its maximum focal length, you get a focal length of 448 millimeters. There's a slight reduction in image quality because of the teleconverter, and you do lose a stop of light, but that's not really a big problem if you're shooting in bright sunlight. The problem with APS-C is that what's good for telephoto isn't good for your wide angle lenses. And because of the 1.6 crop factor, you lose width with your wide angle lenses. But what you can do is buy something called a speed booster. And if you think of a speed booster as the opposite of a teleconverter, so a teleconverter will have a magnification factor greater than 1, and a speed booster, the magnification factor is less than 1. The one that I use is 0.71. So if you multiply that by the crop factor, you get 1.136. So what it does effectively is sort of reclaims some of that width on your wide angle lenses. With my 17 to 40 zoom lens at the wide end, if I put that straight on the camera, I get a focal length of 27.2, which isn't particularly wide. If I use the speed booster, I get an effective focal length of 19.312, which is a lot better. And if you use a speed booster with APS-C cameras, you get another free gift. I said just now that the speed booster is kind of the opposite to a teleconverter. And if you use a teleconverter, it costs you a stop of light. With a speed booster, you actually gain a stop of light. And it may not seem very much, but each f-stop is a halving or doubling of light. And with that extra stop of light you get, you can use it in different ways. If you're in dark conditions, you can open up the aperture to let more light in, or you can use a faster shutter speed to stop the action, or you can lower your ISO value to get less grainy images. When I bought the speed booster, it was purely for the purpose of trying to recover some width on my wide angle lenses. However, when my son started playing football a few years ago, he often plays on covered pitches in quite poor light, but you need to use quite fast shutter speeds because the action is fast. And that extra stop of light that I get with the speed booster has been invaluable. As I said earlier, the intention of this video wasn't to start any arguments. It wasn't meant to be contentious or controversial. I just wanted to explain why I bought APS-C cameras in the first place and why now I plan to continue buying APS-C cameras. Thanks for watching.